And here we go. We are drafting our camp battles as we spin it ahead to training camp now that mini camp is over. We're going to do it draft style. I'm picking number 1, Mary Kay number 2, and Scott number 3. My number 1 pick, I feel like this is obvious, so I hope when I put this out there, you guys aren't shocked, but it's cornerback 2. Who's going to start between Greedy Williams and Greg Newsome II? This is the battle I think we're all going to be watching from the start. It involves a second-round pick from a couple years ago, a first-round pick from this year. Involves kind of what Joe Woods prefers, as you've talked about, Scott, what kind of defense he wants to play this year as far as zone heavy or man-to-man heavy. I asked Joe Woods today if Greg Newsome could play on the inside if he maybe doesn't win that job, and he seemed to indicate that it's something they could consider. But this is the battle for me. Which of these two guys is going to win this job? And then, frankly, what's going to happen to the guy that doesn't win it? Because I think with Newsome, maybe you could move him inside. I don't know that you can with Greedy. So that's it. I feel like this is an obvious number 1.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there. Really, there are not very many starting jobs that are up for grabs on this football team. We kind of have an idea of who is going to start where. But this is one where now, when they went ahead and picked Greg Newsome, number 26 overall, it really put that into mystery in terms of who's going to start there opposite Denzel Ward. Now, Greedy Williams obviously has worked very, very hard to come back from his shoulder injury, the nerve damage in his shoulder. But when you pick a guy number 26 overall, there is a good chance that he will be starting at some point in his rookie year. He's going to start games. It's just a matter of when and how. Is he going to start them because he's going to beat out Greedy at some point? Is he going to start them because of injuries to either Greedy or Denzel? But he will start a significant amount of games this year. Or as you mentioned, will he start inside? When they go to when they have 3 cornerbacks on the field, will it be those 3 guys? So that'll be a really interesting battle. And Greg Newsome punctuated mini camp today, the last mini camp practice until they get back for training camp, with an interception off of Baker Mayfield on a deep ball over the middle. It was sort of one of the highlights of the practice today. They were hooting and hollering. The defensive guys were all excited about it. And it was a good way for Greg Newsome to finish his mini camp.
Yeah, I got the sense that maybe Greedy got more first team reps during this mini camp, but Greg Newsome definitely was making plays that people noticed. So they both kind of had their moments there. And the fact that, that they're both out there competing for this right now is huge. The fact that Greedy's healthy enough to be part of this at this point. I probably would have gone with this number 1. It's not the one position battle I think is most important. Does Mary Kay have the next pick? I'll see if she picks it next, but I probably would have gone with this just because this is definitely the one we're going to be talking the most about. But however things play out, I think the Browns will be fine either way, because either you're getting a Greedy Williams who's worked his way back and is healthy enough to be that starter, or you're going with a rookie who has shown that he seems to be ready to compete for a job like this. Again, like Mary Kay said, he's a first round pick, and you kind of expect that. And either way, I think they're in a great spot at corner going into camp.
Okay, so Mary Kay, who do you have at number 2?
I'm going to go with the number 3 receiver here. I just find this to be a very, very interesting battle. In watching some of this over the last few days, Donovan Peoples-Jones looks really good. Kaderil Hodge looks really good. Then you've got Rashard Higgins, who was out injured today. We don't know what his injury is. Actually, he was injured yesterday too. And then Anthony Schwartz, who I thought that Anthony would have an opportunity to kind of challenge for some playing time, primarily because of his speed. He's been set back by a hamstring injury, which kind of gives rise to Donovan Peoples-Jones a little bit, and Kaderil Hodge. The early reviews on those guys are really good. Even Baker sort of singled out Donovan Peoples-Jones for praise. And, they really like him. The team is really excited about him. He was a great find, a great bargain in the 6th round. And I think he's poised to make a little bit of a name for himself this season.
I wonder what year will we get to the point where we're not talking about the 3rd wide receiver on this team?
Never.
Hasn't happened since I've been on the beat, but It's like this recycled thing that it always comes up because they have two guys who are clearly number one and number two, and so who's that third guy?
Scott, you're up. Is your pick still on the board?
I feel like the number one overall pick just fell into my lap, and it's defensive tackle. And I'll tell you the reason why I put this above maybe the two we've talked about. At cornerback and at wide receiver, no matter what decision they go with, we're talking about spots where they have lots of talent, and we've seen those players perform, or at least, in some cases like Newsom, we expect him to perform at a high level. You kind of have a good idea of maybe what you're getting there. At any rate, those are positions with a lot of depth and talent. Where as defensive tackle, we're not really sure, not just who's going to be the main two guys in there, but also what the rotation is going to be like, and who's going to, who the backups are, and who's going to rotate in there. It's just all kind of up in the air at this point. We heard Joe Woods talk about how Andrew Billings, while being a grown man, is not in great football shape at this point after taking the year off. And, I think a lot of people expected him and Malik Jackson to be maybe the leaders in the clubhouse going into the offseason. Tommy Togiai, I've heard good things about him during this camp. But then, Jordan Elliott, and just the list goes on. Marvin Wilson, who got the big signing bonus as the undrafted free agent. You got Malik McDowell in there. Damian Square, who played significant minutes for the Chargers last year. So, that's a group that could go either way. And I don't know. We can't really say, all right, well, it's a deep group because we're not really sure. So I think however that shakes out, they're going to be putting a lot of responsibility on the guys who ultimately get those spots. And we just kind of have to wait and see how they're going to perform.
Well, I will tell you that whole defensive line was the most spirited group of this entire minicamp. Now, maybe that was in part because they were the closest group to us and we could hear them and see them better than we could hear and see anything else. But these guys were fired up over the last 3 days. The competition was fierce. The personalities were out in full force. They made a lot of noise. They went through their drills like they were, like there was a cake at the end of the road. And I mean, they were just fired up.